Hi there, it's Kristen here again. And in today's video, the theme will be boundaries and space, having your space and your boundaries. It's something that most of us could do with exploring a little bit and sort of making stronger or reaffirming to have our own space, to have a clear boundary. And so this video is for all of you, all of us who could really do with embodying and exploring and reaffirming our own space and our boundaries. Can be useful in many, many ways and can impact how we feel in everyday life in many ways as well. And yeah, of course, we can use movement to create or to strengthen our boundaries and to feel them and to create our own space. So that's what we will do. And the exercises will be mainly floor-based, as most of the exercises in my videos. They will be sort of on a perhaps basic to intermediate level of ability. So, you know, as always, do what feels right to you. Make things smaller where you can, or sit out an exercise if it doesn't work for you, if it's too advanced in some way, or it just doesn't work for you at the moment. If anything hurts or doesn't feel right, don't push through those things, you know, take that advice from your body and you know, take it easier. And of course, if you've got any injuries or you're dealing with any health conditions at the moment that impact on your physical abilities, do check with your healthcare professional before doing any of these videos. So after having said that, we're going to start seated if you're up for it. If you would like to re-establish and really feel your private space and your boundaries, then we can do this together. As always, I will do it with you, so you have a visual reference, but I would really invite you to not look at the screen too much and just follow what you're hearing and interpret that. And I'm sure you'll do a good job with that. So we're starting seated. And again, as always, you know, sitting, especially on the floor, isn't easy for many of us. So let's be really honest to ourselves. Rather than having a hard time, sit on a cushion, on a chair even, before we get to the ground, where you can really feel that your head is balancing comfortably on top of your pelvis. You're feeling easily upright and your back isn't, or your hips aren't holding on for dear life. Yeah, give yourself enough support to let your body be somewhat easy in this. And then we're just going to start by imagining a bubble around us that's encasing us. Maybe a see-through bubble, maybe it's got a color to it, it's up to you. And it's also up to you what size this bubble actually is. There's no right or wrong. Just go with what your initial sense of it, and maybe it changes. That's fine too. So it could be close to your skin, or it could be outside the house, or somewhere in between. See where it ends up. So you're in this bubble, and this bubble is your boundary. And within the boundary is your space. Nothing can get in that you don't want in there. Everything just bounces off the outside without you having to do anything. It's a really safe bubble. But you can choose to let things in. So you can see it a little bit as a cell membrane, you know, something semi-permeable, where nothing can get through unless certain circumstances are in such way where you're willing something to enter, and then it can come in, it can go, but other things can't get in. That would be perfect, wouldn't it? So yeah, that's what it's going to be. So take a moment just imagining it. Maybe you want to close your eyes. Maybe you just kind of want to look ahead, just to get a sense of this bubble and how big it is and where it is around you. And get a sense of yourself within the bubble. How much space is there between you and the boundary? It could be a bit like a bubble, like a soap bubble that can kind of get bigger, smaller, mainly bigger, but maybe also smaller if needs be. Yeah, so it could be flexible. And then we're just going to start looking around a little bit and using our hands, and it's a bit like pantomime or something. So you can use one hand, you can use the other hand or both hands. And you're literally, you might reach for the edges of the bubbles, or of the bubble, or you might just explore the space within the bubble. So this could be a quite abstract and intuitive movement. It's not a particular movement. So you're just going with your own sort of comfort levels and sense of it. And of course, this bubble is all the way around you. So you might explore it in front of you and to your sides, but yeah, also above and down on the ground. You might put your hands down on the floor and feel, you know, yeah, there's the boundary, and there, maybe the boundary bubble goes deeper than the ground, but that's what you can explore with your hands. And of course, behind you. So again, with what feels comfortable, slowly, just allow yourself to explore the space within your bubble and the shape and the inside edges of this imaginary bubble. And maybe you're stretching it a little bit. Just see what feels good. Do you want it a little bigger? You can push at it a little. Make it bigger. And wherever your hand goes, this bubble stretches and gets a little bigger. Or if it's too big, bring it in a little bit. Pull it back in towards you, making it smaller, and then check it again, the space that you have. And also look to where your hands are going. So there's a little bit of orienting here, of imagining a see-through bubble in the space, and what's behind the bubble too. What's in your space. Yeah. And then bring your arms back again and just pause for a moment. Notice if anything's a little different. Do you feel a little different? Even just from moving your arms around. Is your breath different in some way? Do you sit differently? Something else changed. And then we could slowly get to the ground, and you may still have a cushion somewhere near you. You don't need it for the first piece, but you might want it later. And you just have a lie down, rolling through the side or rolling back, whatever you prefer. And find the ground. So you're still within your bubble. You've changed position, but you have your feet, your back on the ground and your head, and the bubble is still around you. And your feet are going to really explore the bottom of the bubble. So you're standing on your feet and allowing your pelvis to float up a little. This is not about, you know, again, getting to the perfect kind of bridge exercise position. You really just, what you're doing is you're sending the floor down. So again, you're creating space underneath, and you could use your hands to actually feel the space underneath when your pelvis lifts. So you're standing into the ground, you're sending the floor down, creating space underneath you in your bubble, and you can feel it with your hands, if you like. You choose how far you go with it. So if you're feeling the energy to really make this bigger, yeah, sure, go for it. And create more space, feel the space for a little longer. Your hands can also reach out to the side again and continue to explore the space underneath and out to either side, maybe even overhead. And then place your hands over your shoulders. So your elbows are going to be close to you and down, and your hands are above your shoulders, as though you're holding a tray there just above your head and chest. And you feel your soles of your feet on the floor and the palms facing the ceiling. And it's as though you have feet where your feet are and feet that face the other direction as well. Like some kind of weird insect. And then could you stand into your feet and start to push the air or the ceiling up to the ceiling equally at the same time, so that you can get a sense that you're expanding in your bubble, both through your feet down, sending the bubble down,
where the edge of the bubble down and the edge of the bubble above you gets stretched up to the ceiling. So you're pressing to the ceiling and your feet press into the floor. And you're suspended in the middle with lots of space. Yeah, take your arms somewhere else. If it feels neural uncomfortable to have your wrists bent, you can soften them a little bit again. And then come back again to the starting position. And repeat that in your own time. Take a breath, and then both hands and feet expand in opposite directions, down and up in your bubble, creating more space perhaps, allowing you to expand into it. So really feel how you're expanded into your space. And again, you can go a little out to the side with the hands, or overhead even. And letting everything fold back in again, knowing also that you can make yourself smaller if you need to. The bubble can come right in with you if you like, just if you like. And then you can expand it out and away again. Depending on your sort of physical ability levels, you could play here a little bit also with your feet. So maybe you're sending your one hand, pushing the boundary overhead a little more and pushing one heel or dragging one heel along the floor to press with your foot away in the other direction. And then you come back into your bridge. A bit more challenging that. And then the other two opposite sides. So both hand and foot now push overhead and away to the end of the mat. Well, another foot is still sending the floor away and the ceiling away. And you could do that again on each side, if that feels comfortable for you to do. And really always having that sense that you're pushing the boundary, that you're making your space yours, really claiming it. And then again, letting everything come down for a moment. And then bring your knees in one at a time. This is where a bit of a head cushion might be handy. You don't need to have it, but it might make things a little bit more comfortable. You can hug the knees in a moment. You're making yourself a little smaller here, perhaps in your bubble. And then release your legs. Just let your knees be sort of heavy on top of your hips and your arms come up to the ceiling. And then let your feet go up with the hands this time. And this really depends on your kind of proportions and your flexibility. But you can just get a little creative here, letting your hands go out while the foot goes up on one side or both feet go up. And maybe you take it a little out to the side with both. So you're resting on the bottom of your bubble and both hands and legs or arms and legs, a bit like when you are sitting, are just exploring this bubble above and around you. In degrees that is comfortable for you. Of course, again, if you like to make this a bit more advanced, you could lift your head and shoulders up to reach a little further with your arms to create something a little bit more where you can reach to either side. Really exploring the space again above you. And then again, allow all that to rest down a moment and let your arms and legs stretch out in opposite directions if you feel like it, to take up as much space as you can on the ground. Pressing again through one foot, the other one arm. the other arm. And then come back in again and roll onto one side. And again, cushion could be handy there to rest your head. And your knees are just comfortably bent in. And your arms are out in front of you. And this time you're going to use that top arm only and your eyes to explore your bubble. So lower leg and lower arm really meet the ground, and the top hand is going to come up, and again your hand is going to move through the air, really exploring it, and your eyes are going to come with, following your hand through the space, and you're reaching behind you, and you might kind of do a little sweep behind you and come back again. So again, this is a little bit freestyle, it's a little bit up to you. You're letting your head roll so that you can follow with your eyes. Sweeping the arm behind you, just kind of having that sense of the bubble there around you. You could stretch one leg forward as your arm goes behind you. And let your eyes really travel through the space as well. So maybe they come off the hand at some point and you're just looking into the space that is yours. And then lie back onto your back a moment, just to kind of notice, how do you feel in terms of your bubble on your right compared to your left? It might be a little different. And then roll to the other side. Do the same there. Letting your hands, this time probably your left or whichever side you're now on, travel back to explore with that hand the space around you. Looking at where the hand is, how it's traveling through space, where your boundary bubble is, and remember the boundary bubble underneath you as well. So lower arm, lower leg, or just remaining heavy. The top leg could get involved again if you like. Stretching forward. So you've got the foot pushing forward as your hand is pressing back. And then again, roll yourself all the way around and sit back on your heels. You can lose the cushion now. And again, you've made yourself somewhat smaller in your bubble. So therefore, again, let's really feel that bubble around you and then expand into the space as you're coming onto your hands. And again, not so interested here in sort of the perfect alignment. Just shift yourself around a little bit, feeling now the back of your head, shoulders back and back of your pelvis towards the top of the bubble, and you've got the space underneath you. So there's space between your knees, there's space between your front and the ground, and space between your arms, your floor, and your chest. And again, you could take one hand off and explore a little bit, reaching up or forward, playing around a little bit as you push back or come forward. So this is something you can play with. Don't worry too much about good form and so on. This is really movement to follow the body. And exploring your bubble. Of course, you could do the same with the leg, sliding a leg away, pushing at the boundary wherever you can easily get to it. This is again where we might freestyle a bit. If you're feeling comfortable with it, you could come onto one side, reach through the air, pushing through the foot, going forward. Let's come to the other side. Sending the leg away, pressing the bubble to wherever you feel you can get to, exploring the space. Maybe coming onto your side, expanding out. And based on what you feel comfortable with, of course, you could also come into something like a down dog or inverted V and lift your knees off, or into a plank kind of movement, and really have a sense of expanding into your bubble, wherever it takes you, whatever your body is comfortable with doing. You could stay with the knees, you could come to more standing. And gradually we will move our way up to standing. So if you are still on the knees, you could tuck your toes under and let your hips come up, even if the knees are a bit bent, where your hands can still be on the ground, and you step a little wider to have a bit more ground, where maybe your hands can come off and you can let the hands move through the air, exploring the space, pushing the bubble. And I'm just going to tilt this up a bit. And come to standing and just take a moment there, letting your feet meet the ground. And again, continuing just a little bit like you started in sitting with your arms. And then just walk around a little bit and feel the bubble coming with you, or how you're moving through your space. How it feels, how you're standing, how everything is arranging itself now in your body. The width of your shoulders, the length of you, your stance. How is that now that you've more of a sense of what is your space? What's your boundary? How your boundary comes with you as you walk around? How your feet meet the ground. Yeah, how is this different now? What's this done for you that you might sense as something a little bit different? Sometimes tricky to put words to it, right? But feel free to let me know. Well done with your boundary exercise. And you got some movement in there at the same time. So it's good when we can move and heal all in one. So that's us for today. Well done, and hopefully see you around some other time.